Story 1. My grandma's stage 4 cancer literally disappeared. My grandma just finished her first round of chemo for stage 4 cancer in her colon and lymph nodes, which was mostly meant to give her some more time with us, as doctors didn't believe she had a chance of beating it. Well, she goes to the doctor, and he tells her, "We can't find it." My dad's like, "Excuse me? What does that mean? How do you lose cancer?" And the doctor told him this was an extreme case, but sometimes even the worst of cases can be absolutely decimated. There's not even a trace. Story 2. When 11-year-old Roxley Doss was diagnosed with what appeared to be a rare, inoperable brain tumor in June, she faced it with courage. Each year, some 300 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with this particular brain tumor, known as a diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG. There is no cure, and less than 1% of people who develop one survive beyond 5 years. It is a devastating disease. You have decreased ability to swallow, sometimes vision loss, decreased ability to talk, eventually difficulty with breathing, said Dr. Virginia Herod, Roxley's doctor at Dell Children's Medical Center in Austin. Roxley was given months to live. As she went through weeks of radiation, her parents Scott and Gina Doss prayed for a miracle. "We got it," Gina said. "Praise God, we did," Scott added. Typically, radiation is a life-extending treatment, and not a cure. But just over 2 months after being diagnosed, the tumor appeared to have completely gone away. Doctors can't explain the remarkable response. Story 3. Ole Nielsen Schuh also looked like a goner. In 2002, the Danish pharmaceutical production manager, now 69 and retired, found out that his melanoma had spread to his liver, abdomen, lungs, bones and 10 spots in his brain. The abdominal tumor was surgically removed, but doctors at Rigshospitalet in Copenhagen had no treatment for his other tumors. He took a strange cocktail of 17 vitamins and supplements, including shark cartilage pills, and imagined the metastases tumor were rats, and he was chasing them with a club. In depth, 6 miracle cancer survivors. 4 months later he went back for a new scan, and found that 90% of his tumors had melted away. Soon they were gone. Co-workers hugged and kissed him when they heard the news. Plastic surgeon Venegar Kalialis, who detailed his case last year in Melanoma Research, doubts it was the vitamins. "It is a complete mystery," she says. "Nobody has seen anything like this." Story 4. By the odds, 27-year-old Sharon Belvin should no longer be alive. The North Carolina resident found out that she had melanoma in her lung a week before her wedding, when she was only 22. That sort of tumor usually sprouts like a weed once it has migrated beyond the skin to internal organs, and it resists most chemotherapy. By the time she turned 24, the few standard treatments had failed, and she had tumors in both lungs. But then Memorial's Wilczek put her on an experimental drug called ipilimumab that aims to trigger the immune system. Within 4 months her lung tumors started to shrivel. By late 2006 they were gone. Today Belvin remains free of cancer and off treatment. She spends her time caring for her husband and 1-year-old daughter, whom she calls a miracle baby, after all we have been through. Her case is so unusual that during a recent appointment the radiologist called Wilczek in disbelief. He said, "What did you do for this patient? Am I reading the diagnosis correctly?" Story 5. 7 years ago, Los Angeles High School social studies teacher Joseph Rick spotted a purple pimple on the small of his back. Too late. The melanoma soon spread into his colon. 9 surgeries and 40 chemo rounds over 2 years failed to stop it. By fall 2004, dozens of tumors riddled his body. Doctors gave Rick, then 43, 4 months to live. Rick bought a gravesite for himself and went home to his LA condo to die. By December his weight had plummeted to 90 pounds from 240. He could barely walk. Then he heard about a new immune system boosting drug being tested at UCLA, similar to the one Belvin received. A week after his first infusion, visible brown tumors on his neck and thigh began to fade, and his appetite returned. By March his tumors had shrunk 25%, and by early 2006 they were gone. When he could go back to work, he broke into tears watching the sunrise. Says Rick, "I would have been dead years ago without this drug." Story 6. Charles Burrows noticed a strange lump on his stomach in the summer of 2005. By November the pain was so bad it felt like a knife was stabbing him in the stomach. A CT scan and a biopsy confirmed Burrows' worst fears. He had inoperable liver cancer. Few cancers have a worse prognosis. His tumor, the size of a baseball, was already starting to strangle the portal vein going into the liver. Doctors at the Phoenix Veterans Affairs healthcare system told Burrows, then 56 years old, there was nothing they could do. They said, "Get your affairs in order, because you have 30 days to live, maybe 60, recalls Burrows, who is divorced with 3 grown kids. Burrows quit his carpentry job and spent the next 2 months in a fog. Then things got very strange. In February 2006, Burrows developed abdominal bloating, shaking, chills, and nausea. Soon after that, he noticed that the lump on his stomach was gone. By then, his daughter had found a doctor in private practice willing to consider treating him. But the doctor couldn't find a tumor. He went back to the VI, where gastroenterologist Newman Galani was flabbergasted when computed tomography and magnetic resonance imaging scans showed no sign of cancer. Where the tumor had once been, there was literally empty space, Galani says. Burrows remains free of cancer 3 years later and still seems dazed by the turn of events. "I won a lottery, and I don't understand why," he says. "I would like someone to explain to me." Story 7. With prayer, woman makes malignant tumor disappear. 3 months after hospital staff gave up on her, Therese Dowd showed up cancer-free. "It's unprecedented," doctor says. To the amazement of her doctors at Ichilov Hospital, who recommended that her leg be amputated to rid her body of a massive malignant tumor, an Israeli woman managed to pray away the cancerous growth, Channel 2 reported. "I felt pain in my leg, in my ankle, with swelling," the woman, Therese Dowd, said in an interview aired Friday night. "They did an X-ray and found a large tumor, about the size of an orange, something that's visible from 10 meters away," said her doctor at the hospital, Professor Jacob Bickles. Dowd, who teaches high school science, was told that the growth was malignant and growing at a rapid rate. Her doctor set an initial date for surgery to amputate part of her leg, but the surgery was postponed twice. When the third date came along, Dowd, who lives in the Druze town of Asfia, canceled the appointment herself. "They tell me that Therese's mother got sick right before her hospitalization date, and that she wanted to be by her side," a senior doctor at the hospital told Channel. "She canceled the surgery and said that, if the surgery had been put off 3 times, it must mean she doesn't need it. It was obvious to me that it wouldn't be long before she died," the doctor continued. "She's a smart, educated, sane woman, and if someone makes that kind of a decision, when they're fully aware of its significance, we respect her." But 3 months after receiving her death sentence, Dowd showed up in Bickles' office. "I asked her what happened, and she smiled broadly and said, 'I prayed.'" Bickles said, "I sent her to get an X-ray, and the tumor had reduced in size dramatically. It's unheard of. Such a reduction in the tumor is unprecedented. I've never seen nor heard of such a thing happening." A biopsy revealed that not only had the tumor shrunken, but that there was no longer any trace of cancer in Dowd's body. "I didn't feel sick. I projected to everyone that I wasn't sick," she said. "Every time I prayed, I felt peaceful and secure. I had fear, but I had tranquility as well." Story 8. Shirley Williams is the wife of Mark Williams. Together, they serve as pastors at Grace Christian Fellowship in Alpine, Texas. One day, Shirley got a call from her doctor. The doctor on the other side of the line had bad news to deliver. "Shirley, you have been diagnosed with cancer, and unfortunately, it's not only in your breast, but it has spread into your bones, organs, and into your lymph nodes." The sad cold news cut through Shirley's heart like a hot knife. Through tears, she asked God questions. "How could this be? God, I've served you all my life. Why should this happen to me?" For some time, Shirley had been experiencing chest pains and feeling weak. She rarely took the time to visit the doctor. However, with time the pains persisted, and she had no option but to get tested. What followed next was a long list of tests that revealed the root of Shirley's problems. She had stage 4 cancer. Moreover, she had been given a 90-day life ultimatum. At that point, Shirley's husband talked to her. "Shirley, in whose report are we going to believe? Only God's report is final in every situation." Days after the diagnosis, the pain kept getting worse, but Shirley refused to give up the fight. Instead, she and her husband Mark chose to live by faith in the promises of God. "Cast your burdens unto the Lord." Shirley continued praying earnestly to God in faith day in day out, and calling upon His supernatural healing. Her church family joined in the prayers and fasting too, for the Bible clearly states that where 2 or 3 are gathered in God's name, He is also there. Meanwhile, Shirley faithfully continued with her treatment, believing that God was in charge. Months later, the 90 days life ultimatum that she had been given elapsed and she decided to go for a checkup. The doctor in charge examined her and surprisingly confirmed that her tumor was gone and there was no more cancer in her body. That was a miracle right there. Shirley jumped excitedly, thanking God for her restoration as tears of joy freely flowed down her cheeks. True to God's healing power, since that day in August 2012, Shirley has been cancer-free. God's mighty hand is also able to heal you if you put your trust in Him.